Hello and welcome to Sit with Hitlist, our award-winning podcast and print series. My name is Mayank, Shekhar, and this is roughly where we feature people who we believe are the most popular and the most accomplished in the world of films and entertainment. Usually we have one guest. Today we have two guests, and there's a reason for it. We're not having a debate. We're not having a discussion. We're actually two people, but who are also one entity, and a really cool entity at that. Writers, producers, directors. I think you know who I'm talking about. Raj and DK. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us.
Thanks,
Hey,
man.
it's a pleasure.
Quickly before we begin the conversation, as it were, you guys are Raj and DK to the world. But if I see your early films, you are separately credited, right? I mean, you would be, Raj Nidimoru, you'd be Krishna DK. At what point did you just become like this thing? How do you merge into this one hyphenated person?
It was always actually Raj Nidimoru and Krishna DK. It was full names, but we thought I was sounding Japanese. It wasn't ethnicity wasn't too clear. So I'm kidding.
Nidimoru, Japanese. Just for brevity, man. It's so hard to remember. Who is this? There's a Raj, Nidimoru, DK, something, So we just said Raj and DK. You cannot mess with that. It's so easy, so simple.
Which movie did you do? Did you do that in the opening credits? Was it Go Goa Gone or was it Shore in the City? Which was the first one?
I think it's Go Goa Gone, because I remember the titles in Shore in the City being attached to the bike, and I remember our names being very long. Yeah. Directed by was going all over the place. So I think in Go Goa Gone.
So that's what you thought.
No, actually, but I do remember somebody joking about it though, man. Like even during Shore in the City, we have to revisit this, Raj. I do remember somebody joking about it, that your name is so small that people miss it on the poster. Like Raj and DK was so small.
that happened with Stree poster, I think, where our names were like before it finished, produced by it somewhere there. So anyway.
But would you get like a Bose DK jokes at all? Has that ever happened?
I used to get a lot of it, man. See, I mean, good for him. He's not stuck with that, right? I'm the DK here. So right. There have been times when I called people, not too often, but there was a time when I did call somebody and said, "Hi, this is DK." And they're like, "Come on." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I am DK. This is Krishna DK." "Oh, shit. Okay, for real." And they thought it was some kind of a joke that was coming. Like they were waiting for the joke. And I had to
But guys, coming back to the both of you are engineers, all right, by training. If I'm not mistaken, both of you from Andhra. You moved to Bombay to make films in Hindi, which is not your primary language. You started with independent cinema, graduated to what would be mainstream as it gets. This is exactly the CV of Ram Gopal Verma, of Nagesh Kukunur, and the both of you. Like, what's up? Like, what is the connection? It's almost like the next generation was the both of you. Everything being the same.
I don't think Ram Gopal Verma is the same graph. I mean, he went directly with an explosive Shiva. Right. But Kukunur, initial years, we were seeing the parallels a bit. We were quite a bit actually, because he produced Hyderabad Blues when we were doing flavors, so we could see the trajectory of that a bit more with Nagesh Kukunur. I don't know. I mean, I think you get bored when you become engineers and you start becoming screenwriters and directors and stuff. So
what's going on in Andhra Pradesh? So like, what's up with movies in Andhra and coming to Bombay?
I think inherently we wanted to have slightly more, given our sensibilities. I thought we felt, at least when we were starting out, when we were making movies in America, when we made a first film in America, we felt that we were a little more in the niche. Like we're not making the mainstream commercial cinema. So you're making these, a film that comes from out of nowhere, kind of a small film, right? And then I think it helps to have a wider reach. So we felt we would, probably fare better if we took the whole country as our audience rather than just one state. So that's kind of where we started off.
Maybe our pool could be bigger, that our niche audience could be bigger. The group
big enough, yeah.
Big enough. So that just felt natural enough to come here. Except we didn't know Hindi very well, so right there we were on the back foot when we came here. So
Would you have preferred to be English language filmmakers? I know that there was a movement early 2000s when it would seem like, like there would be like say like an English August, and those kind of films were being made, theatrically released, split wide open. It just died. It was a very small window. Lots of films came and then all disappeared. Would you have preferred, because so many people speak English, it's kind of odd that we don't have a thriving English language cinema as a cinema culture?
No, actually, to the contrary, man. I think we always wanted to be native to the language. And bizarrely, right now, if you ask me why, I can't even explain why. But bizarrely, our first film that we made in America called Flavors was actually more Hindi than English. It was actually a Hindi language film with it had track in Hindi and it had track in English.
Yeah, we did start off as an English filmmakers, because that was a language that was easy enough for both of us, natural enough for both of us. Telugu and Hindi straddling both worlds, and English speaking audiences, lot of English speaking audience. So it made sense for us at that point. But then when we saw how much we had to struggle to put the distribution of it, just see the economics of it, and just to get your money back. And I don't know, it just felt like there was really, really small audience for it. And if there was, half of it was pirated anyway. So even now, but for that small audience, if 80% is gone in piracy, what do you have? So.
And I think now we are going full circle and coming to a place where we are letting the characters speak the language they're most comfortable with. So, I mean, case in point being Family Man, season 1 and season 2. While the primary language is Hindi, there are characters who speak English, there are characters who speak Tamil, Malayalam. Right? I think that's a nice space to be.
I'm going to come back to the both of you and also like your early years as filmmakers or actually as friends. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you guys were friends in engineering college, SVUCE, which is in Tirupati. Now, do you distinctly remember that moment in your life where your eyes met? Because that would be a meet cute from the movies, man. Like Raj meets, well, not Simran, but DK, because you guys have been stuck together since so many years. That's an amazing thing to happen. Do you distinctly remember the first time you guys met in college?
Very difficult, man. Very difficult. I mean, we were on teams in college together. That's where it all started. But I'm sure there was one time in first year of engineering where we were deciding, do you think we should be on this Dump Sharads team or this quiz team? And
up with the quiz team. We were in the quiz team and all kinds of cultural
movies quiz, movie and music quiz. What it was, not don't think quiz means don't think general knowledge quiz, not that kind of quiz.
The pop culture quiz.
Yeah, right. Pop culture.
Yeah, it was called movies and music quiz. They would play a song and say identify the singer, identify the music, identify the movie, or who's the director of that movie, and that kind of stuff.
The fact is that both of you thereafter, if I'm not mistaken, you guys moved to the US. You do pretty well in your careers as engineers. And what I find fascinating about your lives is, I don't know whether it's a myth, I'm not in a position to comment on it, but there is this thing about the left brain and the right brain, where the left brain is likely to be more logical, is more into analysis, whereas the right brain is far more into creativity. Now, you guys would probably be both because you were extremely successful engineers, but you did really well in a creative art thereafter. Where do you place yourself? Did you feel like a misfit in the first place where you were?
Actually, I'll answer this. Because this left brain, right brain thing was quite a bit in my head in those days. When I realized that I was extremely disgruntled in my job, DK wasn't. DK was sought after. So he was like this ace programmer, analyst that people used to seek after and say, solve this for us. I mean, I was decent. And, we did very well in academics and, all that. So it was logical.
Yeah, we were all top of the line programmers. Yeah. If we had not come into movies by now, I mean, I don't know, man. I could have been the founder of Amazon or something. I don't know.
You would have just made a module of like a new module of SAP saying this is wrong. Let me try to do another module.
Yeah.
It's not the typical story, that typical Three Idiots kind of story of someone stuck in a world that they need to really get out of. Although Raj, you're saying that was roughly your case, but you guys are very successful with what you were doing, right?
No, we were successful, but I think somewhere there we felt that we wanted to make these movies, right? I mean, not necessarily movies. From childhood, I've always thought I'll write novels, right? I thought I'll become a writer, but that was only in high school. I even wrote a novel in high school.
Okay.
Nobody saw it. Nobody published it. It's okay.
Is it there somewhere?
I don't know. Maybe some
Lost,
notebook somewhere.
it's
God
lost in
knows
the
where.
annals of unwritten
History.
novels. So.
Yeah. And of course, then engineering happens. So life happens, engineering happens. You go to America, you're sitting and, you're living that life. Yeah, but for me, I think more than discontent at what you're doing, maybe it's more about the excitement. Suddenly thinking, oh my God, you could do this. Oh, really? You can do this? It's possible? Like you could actually write a movie, you could make a movie. I think it kind of went from there.
Like when DK was excited to do and cracking these programs and stuff, I used to struggle. So I used to find places to go and slip away. So people used to be like, where was he? He was just here. So I used to come with lots of examples of going away to a coffee shop, to a mall, to read something or write something, or maybe take a nap. I'm just all over the place. I was struggling to hit every day. And whenever I used to call DK and he'll be like in the middle of writing up something, I'm like, wow, like, or working. So it was a big struggle for me, and kind of reflects, I think, up to Shrikant Tiwari stuck in a job. I think even in Go Go Gone, even in quite a few films, I think it kind of sneaks in. Even both of us felt the corporate culture, but a little more for me, I think. So when this escape idea came through, for me, it was exciting. And I even left the job at the drop of the hat and went, and we were working on flavors. And, I was, DK still had that job as a part-time. Like, I'm going to come back in 2 months after finishing the shoot, because we don't know how well we're going to do in this. So
We both went back to it. We both did.
We both went back.
It's necessary, man. That's a word of advice if you want to all aspiring filmmakers out there. Don't quit your day job yet. Keep it going. Make your movie, but always keep your day job, because you'll need money. I mean, you make your first movie, you're going to spend every ounce of savings you have, everything you have, and you're going to need more money, and you don't know when you're going to make that money back, right? And you need more money for everything. Yeah.
That is that three idiots phenomenon I was talking about, guys. Like, it almost seems like, because it's so permeated into popular culture and therefore people's lives, I almost feel like there may be a flunky kid and he's flunking at everything, but his excuse is that, I'm an artist. Or the other thing could be because parents have become so cool that there may be a kid who wants to do engineering, but the parent will say, no, you must become a poet. It's like it's a reverse phenomenon of a certain kind. Do you see that around you? Do you see that around people when you guys get like young filmmakers for internships and stuff like that? Maybe they're just doing it because it's cool now.
I think filmmaking, like being a film director, there is part art to it, and planning and analyzing and everything else as well. Directing a film is not as pure an art form as, say, composing a song. I don't know, or painting. What I mean? These are pure art forms which needs only that burst of creativity. And of course, when you're making a film as a film director, you do need the burst of creativity. But creativity alone will make you look like a madman, going around with a bunch of ideas in your head that are not structured, right? You need to structure them. You need to, and I'm speaking as a writer director as well, right? You need to bring them into a format that makes sense as a story. One scene flows to the next. There are character graphs that are followed. I mean, there is so much organization and structure to writing a movie and making a movie that, yes, the art in it, while it's there, it's everything else around it that makes it happen. That is why I think for us, the engineering background came in handy in a big way, that we could actually, whatever good ideas, creative ideas we could get, it allowed us to structure it and plan it and analyze it and maybe reverse engineer and see how somebody else made a movie.
Reverse engineering helped us quite a bit in teaching ourselves, because we didn't have the luxury or option of going to a filmmaking, like a film school. You had to teach yourselves. And so what do you do? What do you know? You are so familiar with the films you watch. That's the only familiarity you have. That's the connection you have, one-to-one. To you, to Scorsese, to Spielberg, or whoever you're watching, you have a one-to-one connection. Now the question is, can you make it as good or even close enough? So the idea was to, figure out, how was this scene made? Why is it looking so good? So that little bit of reverse analytical engineering happened in the initial days, especially.
Were you guys in the same town in the US in these years before leading up to your first film, which is Flavors? Were you in touch?
No, we were not in the same town. Largely, we were in two different towns. I was in Minneapolis and Raj was in Detroit. Significant distance. Like if you want to drive, you pretty much have to drive for 10 hours on the freeway, expressway, or you fly. So yeah, initial films when we made our first short film that we made was made in Detroit, where Raj stays. And I used to travel every weekend, like every Friday, wrap up my software job. I have a flight to catch, land in Detroit, and then we shoot on Saturday, Sunday, and I catch the first flight back on Monday. So we did this for like some 6-7 weeks in a row.
Except he has a record of missing the return flight 7 times in a row. So
Yeah, like every single trip I would miss a flight. It's like something or the other, man. I mean, every reason in the book.
I mean, it could have been the rap party, right? That's the reason you missed it.
Every weekend, no, man. I'm telling you, we are engineers. We didn't know the concept of a rap party. We are like,
Okay.
we are these
yeah,
people who are sitting and planning and,
we're probably the most sane filmmakers you would associate with a film like Go Go Gone.
Interesting you say that. There's so much of slackerism, for lack of a better word, in so many of your films, and not just Go Go Gone, even your first film, Flavors, and you sense that in general. Are these people you picked up, these slackers you picked up around you, or from the movies? Have movies inspired you far more for the genre you deal with?
I think the core of that is that we kind of like the anti-hero idea of a protagonist. I still remember when we wrote 99, how our guy was supposed to be one of the croonies. The hero was a croonie that you would show a shot of a gangster. We used to think those days, and then you would go all the way to the bad guy standing there who was disinterested in the job, and that would be our hero. So I think maybe it came from overdose of extreme protagonists, like extremely straight-laced and active and heroic and all-powerful. Right. So maybe we went the other way because of that. And maybe even Shekhar Tiwari is a little bit of that.
Yeah, we went from non-heroes to unlikely heroes, I think.
Given that you guys decided to work in Bombay, to work in Hindi films, I was reading a blog of yours where you listed your top 40 movies. And I think only one Hindi movie features in it, if I'm not mistaken. I think Golmaal is one movie that you've included in 40 movies that you loved all your life, right?
Honest truth be told, Golmaal I watched first in Tamil, the Rajinikanth version. Then someone said, oh, you love the Tamil version, you should watch the Hindi movie now. And then I remember watching the Hindi version then. And I thought, oh, this is really good. This is really good. And so that's why it made it to the list. But otherwise, God forbid, the Tamil version would have made it to the list.
The correction is it was one Hindi film, but quite a few regional films, I think. That's where we were watching.
There were a few regional films, and yeah, there was Sagar Sangamam.
Khuda Gawar to, it's just one big marquee film used to come and play, and that's it. That's all you get to see. And our Hindi was limited to the Mahabharat Hindi. So, so you pick and choose what you understand.
What cannot be missed in those 40 films is the sheer preponderance of American cinema, especially American independent cinema, mid 90s onwards, early 2000s. And that seems to be where a lot of your inspiration comes from. When you come from that background, when you're trying to make movies in Bombay, is that something that becomes a handicap? When you're writing, for instance, even casting or even looking at technical crew, because you may not have seen their works from before, or maybe that actor you've not seen on screen, to actually write a character which would fit an actor?
See, I think what it gave us is that it's not like we didn't watch Hindi cinema. There was a lot of Hindi cinema we watch, and more, and even as much Telugu as much Tamil. So with 3 languages were covered in India, and there was a lot of American indie cinema and world cinema, and of course the mainstream popcorn Hollywood. So the point was, even when we're watching the Hollywood films, go to every day to theaters, watch, and there was like, you go to watch 3 movies in a row, right? All the time. So I was fascinated with the indie cinema because they were more character driven. They had interesting plots, and they were struggling with the budgets, I think. So the innovation came from the non-budget parts of it. So when we started to write our stuff, the heavy influence was indie cinema, because, we're putting our own money, and you never think of the car flies off or like a bomb blast and then you run and slow motion choppers and stuff. We don't think that way. So you're thinking at the grassroots level and saying, this is cinema and this is what we're going to write and this is what we know. So when you're writing characters and stuff, most of the times, yes, you do derive from real life, saying that it's like that guy meets this guy, or just a trait of him. Or just remember our boss and he used to say this shit, so let's take that. So you would identify a lot with real life people, a lot. all the anecdotes, even if you see our early films, they're all of them. I could, till a few years ago, I could draw parallels to each character and say where certain traits were picked from real life mostly.
Give me some examples of a real life person that you've seen in one of your films.
Let's go to Stree, for example.
Okay.
The whole friendship, he says, I'm doing friendship with this girl. And
he brings a girl for friendship, right? Friendship.
Right.
So we actually use the word friendship from Tirupati, from a friend.
Even the guy, we haven't even changed the guy's name.
Yeah. So we
Can
have,
we say it?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm saying not that guy. I'm saying in general, we got a bunch of guys like Jana. Jana was a name from Tirupati. Narendra was a name from like a good friend of mine. All these people made it to different character names, and even Vicky for that matter. So most of these are incidents too. So, they used to say stuff like friendship. I'm going to do friendship with that girl. I'm like, oh, really? That was hilarious too. Because I had to ask, what is friendship? What is the extent of friendship? We had to discuss this bits to understand what it was.
It became a bit of a buzzword afterwards. It's like, oh, there is that girl. You want to do friendship? She's available for friendship types.
But it was just hilarious the way there was so much in it, complexity wise, that you had. There was a lot of sexism. There was a lot of something you take for granted, things like that. And something so flippantly you use the terminology, but it was part of the culture.
Even in Family Man, I think there is a significant, especially the kids, Atharv and Dhriti, especially, there is significant influence. Dhriti is definitely inspired by our friend's daughter in terms of just being this,
She doesn't like it anymore, DK. I don't think
she doesn't like it anymore.
This,
she
disowned the Family Man too. She disowned the character. So
After two, okay. But in season 1, at least, maybe she was modeled.
She loved it. Season 2, they had so I have to talk to her and say, why would you identify so much with it? It's just a name. So, like, for example, my nephew used to, when I was to go to visit my sister, he used to be playing this flute and it was slightly horrible. So I'd be like, what are you doing? So poor guy, but we used to laugh at it, saying like, what are you doing? And since you want me to play, and my sister will say he's gonna play a song. And be like, okay, I know where it's gonna go. Of course, he's very good at it. If you're watching this, I know you're very good at it. You're gonna excel in this.
See, you're getting us in a lot of trouble.
No, not at all.
People we know by asking all these questions, man.
Okay, actually, closer home. The guy, the boss in Family Man, that seems like a boss you guys have met.
It's an amalgamation of all the shitty bosses that we worked for. So one punching bag, and it's almost like DK and I were discussing when we were like long ago, like 5 movies ago, just writing and stuff, like when we were still software engineers and writing that stuff and saying one day we're gonna make a boss and punch him in the face. So that's what it was.
But where is that? Don't be the minimum guy. Is that straight out of an HR textbook, or is that something that someone's told you before?
We were just writing. And then I was looking at different quotes that go on the wall. I was looking for I've seen them before. So it was always like, don't be this, or like rise up and stuff like that. So then just wanted to coin a word. It was a coined word. It wasn't there before.
I don't think it's from an existing quote. It was just a coined word.
Yeah, so I
coined it.
Just wrote it like, don't be a minimum guy. It's kind of wrong English, inspired by like Trump, Mrs. Trump, and went for a slogan that wasn't the best of English, but it made sense in some way.
Actually, we've coined another phrase as well in Go Go Gone, where we write where the characters say, what do we know? What have we learned? Right? They keep saying this. It is a slogan from their telemarketing company that they work for, the call center thing. And we also want to do a little ode to Steve Jobs Day. So we put Steve Jobs' picture and then said, what do we know? What have we learned? But that's not actually a quote he said.
Right.
So it's just a quote we made up.
Even for that matter, the character, the Govinda's character, right? In Happy Ending, the fact that he gives make this movie. This is meet the parents first half and meet the fuckers second half. That also seems like something you guys have, some producer you've met, some actor type you've met. Go for it.
We did. Yeah. Those were the exact movies also.
Okay. Then when we said no, not our genre, then he immediately came up with 2 more DVDs. Analyze this, analyze that.
So it might be slightly exaggerated, but the idea was these DVDs were given to us.
Was it a star or was it a producer?
It was a producer.
Coming back to you guys and your dynamics, actually, I find it fascinating because it's not an uncommon thing for a lot of people to write films together. You know, like the most famous writers we've had, even in Bollywood, like a Salim Javed or even like say a Zoya, Rima Kagdi. So the fact that you guys write together does not seem as odd, or certainly doesn't seem uncommon, right? But when you direct together, and of course, there are examples for that too, like a Coen brothers or, Russo brothers. There's so many of them. Here, there's probably Abbas Mastan. Again, they're brothers. You guys, of course, you're one person now. How does it work? Like, what are the dynamics? Which of the two is older or is roughly same age?
Yeah, we're same age.
I'm sure not born on the same day.
No, but
No.
born on the same number.
Even if it's months, which one is older?
DK is the chota by 3 months. 4.
Yeah, 4 months. Yeah.
See, we write together, so we write to direct. So right there, most of it is done. Somehow for us, we haven't seen another guy make a film. We have never been on sets before. In fact, we've never visited a set till we made Go Go Gone. Like I've never been. I really wanted to go. Even while shooting Go Go Gone, I said, can I just go to Maniratnam's set and see how they do it? I'm sure they do it better than us in terms of structuring or organizing or whatever execution, because we were just doing it on our own. It's like complete reinvention of the wheel. So we know only one way to make movies is to first write it. So we just write it together, hash it out. Everything is there. So it almost feels like we've directed the film on paper. Now it's execution time. And now you go with the actors, all the brilliant actors that come in, especially lately, all these really tremendously talented actors come in and take it to another level. So you watch this happen, or even a DOP comes and takes that scene to another level. Initially we used to place the camera and say, this is where, because I don't know, we didn't know another way to do it. So this is how it's going to be. It's going to move. It's going to come from here. We still do that, but then we have great collaborators now, all the technicians to actors who kind of elevate it to the next level is what is.
But how do you guys complement each other? Like Raj, what would you say as DK's core strength? And likewise, what would you say, DK, is Raj's core strength when it comes to either writing direction, writing scenes or executing scenes on the set? What would be the core strength of, either of you?
DK has a nickname that everybody else knows.
DK is already a nickname. He can't have another nickname. DK
is also called Logic King. So, so you can't go wrong in logic. Or I'm extending logic to a very broad sense in terms of sensibilities of the structure, or how does it even make sense for a scene to come here, or this is not how he would have behaved because of this so and so, or in a much broader sense, to a minute sense, like, no, this shirt doesn't fit in this scene because he didn't wear that. From continuity to the larger level of creative flow. His core strength is that. So I stopped using my left side of the brain much with DK. So I'll be like, DK, is that right? Can we think of a scene here? He says no. I said, okay, that doesn't work here. Not just that, and he also works a lot with just technically super sound, from cinematography to editing to even VFX and all kinds of things. Basically, technically he's pretty sound, so he deals a lot more with especially the DOP and even the editor. So he's technically solid in that. So that's where I would fall back on and not think too much about, because
it's taken care of.
It's taken. He's there for it. So
Raj likes to nitpick on every little detail, so it's actually frustrating. But he's like, I
said so many good things about DK, and this is what.
This is a good thing, actually. It is actually a good thing, right? It eventually
that's a perfectionist or whatever.
He's like looking at all these little things and saying, this guy doesn't look like, whatever. He doesn't look like a millionaire. He doesn't look like this. He doesn't look old enough. He doesn't look young enough, or he's not saying it right, or he's not wearing the right clothes. So so there is a lot of things he tries to disrupt, right? When you think, oh, it's all good. Then Raj is like, no, this is not good. No, this is not good. That is not good. I'm like, okay, now let's go redo all that again.
That thing sounded good here, but yes, looks like I have people say like, I think, sir, I think you better come to the location. Or DK will say, you better, I said okay to it, you better come and see it and don't complain later. Invariably, it looks like I've gone to a place that was already done or something locked already and said like, this doesn't work. And people were like, I knew it. So,
See, the idea is, I think he keeps going back to the, I think he doesn't shy away from disrupting. That's what I'm saying. Like once you and I sit here and decide, okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do this. Okay, done. We're shaking hands. We're going to do this. And we're thinking it's done. But he could very well come tomorrow and saying, listen, I was thinking about it. I know we agreed we'll do it, but let's not. Let's change it all over again. It's like, so he keeps doing that a lot, with the intention of making it better, right? Obviously, sometimes just because you agree on it doesn't mean it's a good thing anyway.
Whose word prevails?
I think we kind of come to a consensus only. Typically, we always come to a consensus. We are both sane people. We think logically, right? We weigh the pros and cons. And sometimes he'll also agree, yeah, I know I have these niggles, but in the bigger picture, it's okay. Or sometimes I'm like, you know what? These niggles are not niggles. They're actually big problems. So we have to change, right?
I know that it's possible for multiple directors, and there are multiple directors of series, for instance. Like say, if you take a Sacred Games, one part was being done by one director, the other part, I just don't mean episodes, but even characters and stuff like that. Is that how you would split, say, when you're doing a series? Would you not be at the same point? Because you can actually cover a lot more material if you're doing one thing and both of you are doing different things. Or would you still be on the set each time together?
Yeah, the latter. No, we don't. See, what you're talking about is like a split unit, right? Once in a while, when under crunch for time, when under pressure for time, and when it's a big, complicated sequence in a big location, yes, we do split up units. When it comes to filmmaking, right? I mean, this entire unit is not just the director. So I could be in one place and Raj could be in another place. But then, yes,
right,
you need an entire unit there. You need all the actors. You need the ADs. You need the DOP. Crew, right? You need the entire crew, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's possible, especially in action sequences. We do tend to split up. Like I'd be doing one sequence here with this set of acts. Like there is a little chase or crash or something I'm doing. Meanwhile, there's another piece that's happening that eventually we'll edit together. He'd be handling that. And we probably have extra cameras and extra cameramen that day. So we are set up to do that. But on a typical day, no, there's only one unit that's running, one show that's, one shoot that's happening. And both of us are there.
Is it easier because you guys know each other? You've discussed it before. So it's okay if DK is there and Raj is not. Does that happen, or Raj is there, DK is not even on a set, for instance?
It does. Sometimes it happens. Yeah. Sometimes it does happen, especially if you're comfortable enough. Like if we've discussed the scene, like you said, very well, and we both know what we're going to do. Like he knows what I'm going to do when I go, or I'll know what he's going to do when he goes. And sometimes we do that. And there are so many permutations and combinations.
It's really something we've developed over the years without talking about it. I think it's just there intrinsically, which actors are going to be there. And depending on that, sometimes when we have to split, who's going to go for it, if we have to split and stuff like that. Or because sometimes you know exactly what the scene is going to be, no matter what's going to happen there. And 90% of the time it is that. And sometimes you know that if one of us specifically goes for that, we would try and do something with that actor. So things like that also creep in.
You mean a good cop and a bad cop scenario too? Because maybe that actor gels with you a bit better than he does with DK, or
that could be one of the scenarios. But sometimes it's more like, let's say this guy he is very, very impromptu or very
improvises a lot, spontaneous.
Yeah. Right. So it's more fun to deal with him. Like I'm not just saying DK and I. Let's say we have a third director on the set. I would rather go for those scenes to see what else can be mined there, for example. Or sometimes we'll be like missing out, saying that somebody else is directing it and they haven't worked with them before. So you know that shit, I wish one of us is there so we can mine him better, because there'll be some nuggets that come out of it.
Yeah, it does happen all the time, right? For example, Family Man season 2, for example, we have worked with Manoj, and we know Manoj and JK Sharv and all these people, and Supern is a new director on board. And of course, very capable director. He did a great job handling a lot of the scenes. And of course, in the initial parts, sometimes maybe, like I would have felt, or Raj would have felt that, there is this thing that Manoj does that in this scene, we should get it out. So we are there to reinforce it once in a while. That happens because we are more familiar with the actor. And
because you've already done the first season.
You know what has happened before. Or maybe an actor is very tough to deal with.
Which of you dealt with Govinda? I want to know. Like most Bollywood filmmakers have had a tough time dealing with him.
No, both of us did, and actually, no complaints at all. I mean,
what are you saying? Really?
Yeah, seriously, yeah. It wasn't such a long schedule, right? We were there only for like a week or so. We shot about a week or so, and he was a darling, right? I mean, he was there, and he was coming back after a long time, and I could see that he was missing being in front of the camera and acting, right?
Right.
So he was loving every moment of it.
You not being too much into Hindi films while entering it, right? Now, the good side of that could also be, and because you work in so many Hindi films now, and with some of the leading men with like massive filmography behind them, is it also that you'll be less intimidated by them because you're not coming in as fanboys?
It's not like we don't know the superstars of Hindi cinema anywhere, right? I mean, when I see a Rajinikanth or a Chiranjeevi in the South, or when I see a Shah Rukh Khan or a Salman Khan, that aura stays, no matter what you say, right?
You're still that fanboy who will still be slightly intimidated by the presence or the aura of multiple years right there in front of you in 3 dimension.
Maybe not intimidated as much as, but I mean, of course, man. I mean, you're in the presence of. I mean, there are certain big superstars, right? And you have to take that in, and of course, then you'll overcome that.
We just met Kamal Hassan like a week ago, or and
for the first time.
Pretty much the first time,
right?
Except for in a party saying hello and taking.
Yeah, we met a hi hello thing, but this was an actual meeting for the first time. Yeah.
But he's a legend, and we've seen like tons of films and amazing amount of work, and so all that is flashing in front of you more than anything else. I don't think we are fanboys that way. For even people used to ask us who's your favorite actor or director. It was hard to pick. It was always like, I like this film, and this is what I learned from that film. So, but there are a few people, like handful of actors and musicians and who we are in awe with, that these are the people that have influenced you, or you look up so much to that. I have like basically maybe not even a list of 7 people that, that I would not shy from saying that, can I get a picture with you?
Okay.
Because otherwise I wouldn't ever ask, that's the only time. Even then we shied away from asking Kamal Hassan, can you take a picture with you?
We still didn't get a picture. We were thinking about it throughout that. It was a long meeting. We spent a lot of time with them, and I was still thinking, you think after this long meeting and conversation, it's good to ask for a selfie? And we are like, no, let's not. Let's get out.
So what happened the time that you narrated a subject to Shah Rukh Khan? And I'm sure that was a pretty long meeting too. And he, if I'm not mistaken, he really enjoyed your script, said yes to working on it. What happened there? Did you feel the same way as you did with Kamal Hassan?
Shah Rukh Khan is a charmer, like not just the charisma and whatever he carries with, it's also the knowledge. I was impressed with the amount of knowledge and the books that he was reading, and the kind of just knowledge that he was talking about, even technical knowledge like VFX and stuff. That was pretty impressive. And the overall thing that impresses you is the eternal excitement to make a new film. That is something you would think right now, by now you're jaded or like you've seen enough, but that enthusiasm to actually go to the nitty-gritties and go to the core of it was very, very impressive.
I mean, the reason why I'm bringing this up is, if you see your beginnings to where you reach now, where, I mean, my next question should be about meeting Russo brothers, for instance. And that would be like, whoa, do you get that, Raj and DK in Wonderland kind of moments once in a while? Like just like getting used to it, and it is what it is.
No, you always get that, right? Be it with Shah Rukh Khan, be it with Kamal Hassan, be it with the Russo brothers. It's good also. It's good to let that aura wash for a bit.
Right.
But fact be said, right? If you're going to work with somebody, now you got to get to the nuts and bolts of it, right? Then you start looking at them, and you start looking at them as an actor, and looking at the subject, and looking at the nitty gritty of making a film. And you have to get that aura out of your head for a bit. You cannot be thinking, oh my God, let's make a movie. Oh my God, you cannot be doing that, right? So, but Russo brothers also, once you sit at the table and you start talking, after a while, you're talking regular stuff, you're discussing stories, ideas, and once in a while you get to hear a little anecdote about making the Avengers, and that's about it.
Of course, that Russo brothers led to what you're currently making or will be making soon enough, which is part of a larger franchise and the India version of that franchise. What did the Shah Rukh Khan meeting lead to? Is that going to happen? Is that film going to happen?
It's in his hands. I mean, we have a great story. We both, and he enjoyed it, and he really wants to do it. So it's up to the scheduling and when he wants to do, whenever that happens.
But how does it work for you guys? You know, like someone told me, a friend of mine actually, who had actually met Kurosawa many years ago. And so Kurosawa was explaining to him exactly how he does his filmmaking, which is obviously pitching ideas wherever he meets people. And it's like, you know, you have to constantly like take one thing from here, take one. You're like, oh, you don't like this one. It's like a magician showing multiple tricks. Okay, you don't like this. I'll try this. I'll show you this. He'll take out another script from his shoes. You know, like obviously metaphorically. Is that how it's worked for you? Like you have like tons of scripts already lying with you because you've constantly been working all these years writing continuously, regardless of whether those films get made.
I think so. We realized that I didn't think we had a ton of it till we started chatting with a few filmmakers, and everybody is saying that, my God, the amount of stuff you have, give me one, or stuff like that. Then or someone says that I've been working on the script for 4 years, I can't fucking crack it. What's going on? How come you have, so when they compare is when I realized that we do have. And I went back one day after we had a chat with a couple of filmmakers, and they were struggling to make another film and all that. So when you went and actually counted it, thinking like, you know what, let me take number of chips, how much poker chips did they have? You know, how you count after a while saying 10, 20, 30. So you were doing it and you realize that, oh my God, we were sitting on some 70 ideas, or like, some potent 20 plus scripts that are, pretty much story-wise all there. And you realize the amount of time we've spent over, years writing this. And you're constantly writing, or there's an idea and you're halfway through a story, and then I'll call DK, or DK calls me and says, how about we do something like this? And then, energy goes there. So there are various stages of development, but there are quite a few. And what's nice is the time's so ripe the last few years to bring out all kinds of crazies, which you thought would never see the light of the day, or which you think that people say that, write something more sane. It's not like we are making strange, absurdist cinema.
Right.
Just that, I think the template, like I said, favoring an anti-hero or favoring a non-hero, or any of these.
Yes, Three is an example of a bizarre, it's as bizarre as it gets, right? In terms of a ghost that's a female ghost that's picking up men in a world where now men have to be afraid of this female. And so suddenly, like, it's a bizarre idea. It's a horror comedy, so to speak. It's meant to be scary, but it's also meant to be funny. And
can I take off? I think there are a bunch of guests waiting.
Not a problem. Please say happy birthday to your dad.
Happy birthday to your dad. Happy birthday to your dad.
Happy birthday to your mom.
Yeah, my mom's birthday as well today.
Man, like really, like
yeah, I know.
Coming back to the thing about comedies, the fact is that all your works, in some form or the other, have all been comedies, right? Yeah, sure, it's Stree, but Stree is also comedy in the horror genre. Family Man is also comedy in the spy genre. Go Goa Gone is comedy in the zombie genre. Now, when you do a film, when you do a series with, say, Manoj, right? And I find that interesting because I think it occurred to me while reading about Family Man that he may have never done comedy all his life. He's probably never ever, as an actor on screen anyway. How would you pick someone like Manoj for a part in a genre that he's never attempted? Of course, it's also spy, and he's done gritty films and all those things, but they've all been serious roles. How or why would you pick Manoj for a Family Man?
Manoj is one of those guys that we realized later that he has never done a comedy. But see, sometimes when you look at people and when you look at actors, you know that it's easy to tell, right? When you see Manoj in a serious role, instinctively, I think you can tell that he's capable of doing this way, that way. He's capable of being wicked. He's capable of being funny. He's capable of doing everything. It just needs the right material. I mean, maybe not an out-and-out comedy. Either way, we're not trying to make an out-and-out comedy. We're trying to make it realistic, real film, a real man, but just the wit and just the spontaneous humor needs to flow. And a lot of times you go with faith in the actor. And Manoj, I mean, I don't think we had any doubt. We knew that he would do it. The only thing we wanted to be cautious, like, and all of us, including Manoj, all of us had this little thing. The first few days, let's go slow, let's take it easy. And he also wanted to find the pitch of the comedy, right? Because he could be funny in a different way than what we would have wanted. And so we were tuning it over the first few days. And afterwards, it all naturally fell in place.
I mean, he is, after all, like the actor from Satya, which I'm pretty sure you would have watched when it came out. Likewise, watched Bandit Queen when it came out, and that's the last thing that you would see him is. And you imagine him is a comic role. How about Seb? I mean, that's probably the one actor that you actually repeated, if I'm not mistaken, in 2 films. You've had him as the lead in 2 movies. What was that connection like? Did he reach out to you? And of course, he's done what would be extremely, off kilter parts that only he could pull off.
No, yeah. See, when we had the script for Go Go Gone, right? I mean, we're lucky to find takers for it, right? And remember, we are coming from Shore in the City. So we made this film, Shore in the City, which got a lot of critical acclaim and people are loving it, and some kind of a satirical, maybe even that had humor, but it's a bit of a more serious piece about the city. And then you're coming up with this, wacky zombie comedy? Are you crazy, right? That's what everybody thinks, right? But we had already made up our minds that this is what it's going to be. And we had Kunal on board, and we went to meet Saif. And Saif was like, okay, what is it you want to make? And then we said, so it's a zombie movie. And he's like, zombie? Really? People in India are going to watch zombies and this? And okay, fine, tell me the story. So I'll tell you what, okay? Verbatim. So we told him the story. Like we told him only half the story till the interval point. At that point, he was literally ROFL, rolling on the floor, laughing, right? Especially when he heard the character of Boris, the guy with this.
Right. Where does that character come from?
Meaning, we just made it up. We just thought we'll have this wacky guy who is this Russian gangster, but he's an Indian, right? Because you're in Goa and you want to blend with the Russian mobster. So you model yourself, you became a Russian. You're pretending to be a Russian and going by the name Boris, but you're actually an Indian, right? And so, even when we went to Saif, we were like, this is not Saif. This is a weird, wacky version of Saif, right? Even he knew that. So you're going to, color your hair blonde, and you're going to spike your hair, and you're going to have tattoos, and you're going to have a shotgun. And halfway into the movie, he said, and this is what I'm saying about verbatim part, right? He said, ye to hai, and mujhe ye karna hai, right? So that's what he said. And he was like salivating over the thing. He was like, I'm going to come with a shotgun. I'm going to be this Russian gangster. I'm going to shoot zombies. And he was sold. It was a humor, and it was just the quirkiness, the fun of it and everything. And he's always been a guy who veered towards that kind of stuff, right? He's always a kind of guy who was something that's out of the ordinary, was something that naturally appealed to him in general. But of course, sometimes a better sense would prevail in saying, I don't know, man, this is too risky. I don't know if I should do this or not. All that would happen. But ultimately, the child in him or the wacky person in him, he had to do this.
A lot of aspiring filmmakers will be watching this, DK. And I mean, the kind of story that you had over the years, it's a deeply inspiring story for filmmakers for sure. Especially at the time when you guys came in, so much was about getting people to cast, because then thereafter the money comes in, thereafter the film gets made. You could have multiple ideas, but if someone does not say yes, that idea is not going to be on screen, right? What is it that you've managed to crack about pitching? Because we meet people all over North Bombay, and they're all sitting there with all these scripts that never get made. What is it that you know about pitching that maybe people should also know about? Also, now that you're a producer, there are people who pitch to you too.
See, the 2 parts to it. And now that we are producers, it's actually an entirely different idea I'll give. But versus how we went about this is like, it's not that different from what you said Kurosawa said, right? You give an idea, not working, here's another one. No, not working, another one, right? Our idea is not that far away from that. Like, key word, I think, for us was adaptability. We would go with the concept and say, you know what, I want Amir Khan for this. Oh, Amir Khan's not working, that's fine. I'll do with a much smaller actor also, right? That's your adaptability. You do have to make changes to the story. You have to tweak the character, tweak the scale and scope of the film. But we adapted to that quite well because we were coming as independent filmmakers, having made our own film in America. So we had this little knack of saying, give me $10,000, I can make a movie. If you give me $100,000, I'll make you a better movie. But if any amount, I'll make you a movie. because I have the idea. I'll just have to figure out what I can cut and how I can shape it and how I can change so I can still make this movie given the resources you have. And that's kind of how originally we started out becoming filmmakers. And of course, the casting journey was not a small journey. It took us almost 5 years to cast for our first Hindi film.
Really?
99, yeah.
Right.
99. It took us almost 5 years from Flavors. And with great difficulty, we got this kind of like an ensemble cast. And we had Kunal Khemu, we had Cyrus Brocha, we had Boman Irani,
Right.
Soha, and we also had Mr. Vinod Khanna, like in a special cameo in the film, right? It took a while to do it. And that was one film we managed to make, and it did reasonably well. But right after that, in the next film that we made, we actually, instead of, a lot of people think they should go bigger, we went actually smaller in terms of budget and scope and scale, right? We went with Shore in the City. And we said, we're going to make this very small film called Shore. And it's not going to have any stars. It's just going to be actors, newcomers, people, like multiple, like 10, 12 actors, all newcomers. That was the idea for Shore in the City, by the way.
Right.
And we had somehow convinced a friend to fund it. It was not going to cost a lot of money by his money standards. It wasn't going to cost a lot of money.
Right.
So we were going to make it as a very low budget film, independent film. We're just going to produce it ourselves. We're going to direct it ourselves and everything. But of course, somewhere there, Alt Entertainment, Balaji's, they got interested and they approached us and said, oh, do you have a script? Honestly, we didn't pitch this. We said, okay, we have a script. And it was a nice, like a fun, happy film. We said, we have the script. And of course, there is other film. We are making it on our own. And the word I think we were using then was non-commercial. Like, it's not really like a commercial film. It doesn't have a big hero or anything like that. It's just what it is. It's like a kind of like a take on the city with multiple characters and all that. At that time, Alt Entertainment happened to be looking for interesting offbeat subjects. So they actually latched onto that. They said, no, tell me that story. So we actually gave them the script and said, you read it. I totally understand if you don't want to do it. They were like, no, we want to do it. So who do you want for it? And then we were like, okay. So, I mean, we still said we don't need any stars, but we did end up meeting Tushar Kapoor. And he showed a lot of interest in doing that role. And we were like, okay, great. I mean, we actually have a star who's interested in doing it, which we weren't planning for. So Tushar ended up playing a role. Sendil was the only guy we had in mind in terms of star power at that time. We had already gone to LA and cast him. Most of the budget for the movie was going to go to him. And he was taking a huge pay cut to do that film as well, because we couldn't actually afford his real prices. But it's like, this is it. It's a small film. You want to do it, we can pay you this much. Otherwise, I mean, we just can't do it. And so we did make Shore in the City. And a studio did fall behind it, but otherwise we were planning to do it on our own and see what we're going to do with it.
Right. So, I mean, the trick also is the fact that if one thing does not work out, you have something else that you've also worked on, which can become, so you constantly engage with multiple ideas, right?
Exactly. And the fact that we were ready to make Shore in the City on our own, if nobody else was funding it. And because it was small enough, we thought we just had to find a couple of people who had just enough money to make it happen, right? It's not like I needed a big studio to make it.
To give the viewers an example, how many things are you working on right now? Because I personally lost count. I mean, there is Gone 2 that's going to be made for sure, right? There is a series that you're doing with Shahid Kapoor, if I'm not mistaken. Just give a sense of how many things you're currently working on.
We are currently in production in the series with Shahid and Vijay Sethupathi. And we just wrapped up production on a series, a very cool period series. It's a satirical comedy set in the 5th century called Gulkanda that we just wrapped, and it's being directed by Rahi Anil Barve of Tumbar, the director of Tumbar. And now I'm still shooting this one with Shahid and Vijay Sethupathi. And right after this, we have another series that we'll be putting on the floor. And right after that, we have Citadel, which is also in development and which we are aiming to start shooting in a few months. And then there's Family Man 3.
Right.
Right. And those are the series we have. And there are a couple of films.
Right, which also gives me a hint that I don't think I should keep you from your work, because there are enough fans. All the other reasons that you've given, certainly waiting for Family Man 3. DK, just before we leave, I'm going to try this question for sure. And I hope you have a pretty decent answer for this, because it's only between us. Family Man 2, it took really long for that particular season to come. Between the time that the trailer was out, the actual season dropped online, right? And of course, there were multiple speculations on why that was the case. Amazon Prime Video was going through stuff, Tandav happened, and all those things. What changes did you have to make for Family Man 2 for it to not get into trouble at all? Because I'm sure that was the reason.
If not for the pandemic, Family Man 2 would have released almost approximately a year from Family Man 1, right?
Right.
Because of the pandemic, we got delayed a little bit. Of course, we were planning to release in February and the whole Tandav thing happened. So a lot of things went on were kept on hold as a platform thing, right? They were not specific to Family Man at all. Like actually nothing released, I think, because there were a new set of rules that were coming in, like OTT guidelines and rules and stuff that they had to adhere to. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the reason. I'm not even sure if any Netflix series released during that period either. Not for any reason, not for the show itself, but because to put out anything, there have to be certain things they need to adhere to, right? There has to be certain things. So there was some time that went into it, and as soon as possible, we released the show. We didn't really tinker with it much at all.
Define much.
Not much at all. Nothing that would impact anything. Maybe a subtitle here, a word there, which keeping in mind the new guidelines and stuff. So there were certain new rules that came in when it came about. There are actually specific guidelines. For example, something that's a cause for concern in terms of national security or your allied nations or stuff like that. So we just had to kind of make sure that we were adhering to all the rules, kind of a thing. But other than that, there is no major censorship kind of a thing. Definitely not because of that controversy.
Are you re-looking at stuff that you've written in the past and kind of seeing where it fits into the current IT rules imposed by the government?
Not specifically, no. But see, we have never, I don't think we made anything that has gotten into trouble in that sense, right? We've not been about, stirring up stuff or for that matter, even in season 1 Family Man, when there were absolutely no restrictions on nudity or cuss words or anything. It's not like we had any nudity, nor did we go overboard with cuss words. So I think somewhere there inherently, we kind of have a certain parameter that we, go by.
I was hoping for like a headline hunting answer to the last question. Clearly that did not happen, DK, but you're always a pleasure to talk to. And I hope we can do this in real life very soon. All the best with everything you're doing. Thank you so much, DK.
Take care, man. Yeah, take care. Okay, bye.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.